Welcome back to another Meet the Member series here with Greater Culture CrossFit. And today we're going to take some time to meet Emma Rogerson, who's been at the gym now pretty much since we've been there and been there even before that. She's one of the sort of the OGs for our morning 5:15 crew. So excited to get to know her just a little bit more. So Emma, tell us a little bit about how long have you actually been doing CrossFit?
I think 3 years now.
Okay.
I jumped around a couple gyms before landing at Greater Culture. But when we moved to Fuquay, I finally switched over to CrossFit gym instead of more like the boot camp stuff I had done before.
Yeah. What led you to want to try out CrossFit compared to boot camp and some of the other things you've been doing?
It's entirely my boss's fault. They've been CrossFitters for a very long time and had been pressuring me for a long time to try it, but I found it incredibly intimidating. But then with the move to Fuquay and there was a gym so close by, I figured, all right, well, I guess I got to try it out now. So Here we are, 3 years later, obsessed with it.
It's funny how that happens for so many folks. They sort of get dragged along by a friend or family member or somebody else, and all of a sudden they're like, I don't really want to do it. It's not for me. And then they do it and they're like, oh, this actually isn't as bad as maybe I thought it was. So what was that process like when you first started going and you got sort of coaxed into it by your friends and your boss over there?
Yeah, it was good at first because I felt like I had, because of the boot camp kind of background, like the endurance was there. I knew how to do like a group fitness, but I was particularly afraid of the barbell. So that was a big learning curve. But, you know, my coach at the time and then you guys now have been super understanding and like scale things down as needed. And I mean, then it became far more comfortable. So it was a learning curve, but it wasn't as bad or as scary as I thought it would be. So
I feel like that's a common experience as well. As you look at some of the things that people are doing and the movements and the weights, and you're like, I could never do that. And all of a sudden you get in there, you're like, oh, there's different variations and options, and you progress to get to some of those different levels. And I know you're a big fan of running and still are a big fan of running. So how does running play a role with the CrossFit now?
I think it's hilarious because I have yet to meet a CrossFitter that likes running. So it's like a nice little thing in my back pocket. Like, oh, well, if there's running in the workout, like I'm not worried about that. That's fine. But it is hard to kind of balance the two because I do try to get to the gym as much as I can. So making time for running like on the weekends and stuff too can be a little tricky, but I sneak it in where I can.
Yeah, I think most people find CrossFit because they realize there's not as much running, and then all of a sudden there's days where it's programmed and they get not very happy about going in for those days. So it's a nice balance there. What are some of the distances that you've been able to accomplish, whether you're signing up for races or things like that?
Yeah, I've done a couple half marathons were like the furthest I've done. I love a 10K because it feels very productive, but you're not like absolutely trashed afterwards. But I mean, a little 5K here and there all the time. I'm always up for it. So
yeah,
really anything is fine.
You can be coaxed into anything. I feel like that's kind of the nature of the beast is like, okay, coax into CrossFit, or let's sign up for a race, or let's go do a Spartan race. I know we've done that together. So it's one of those where it's like, if there's a fitness challenge, like, all right, twist my arm, I'll go there
try
with you.
It. I don't know.
Why not?
Yeah.
So you're someone who is a staple at the 5:15 a.m. class, which for some folks, that just sounds crazy to wake up that early. So tell us, how do you find the balance or the ability to work that into your schedule, waking up at that time of day and making that sort of part of your routine?
Yeah, it's mostly out of necessity. If I don't catch that 5:15 or the 6:30, it's not going to happen that day. Once I'm at work or catching up with things after work, it's just I won't be able to fit it in. So kind of has to happen, but after a couple weeks of it, it's not bad. It's pretty doable. As long as I like wind my day down early enough the day before and not too many like weekday activities, it's totally feasible. But there are some days where it's hard, but that's just the stronger cup of coffee that day, so it's fine. But yeah, it's not too bad.
Yeah, the ability to get the night before to go in line with how you'd like it to be is really critical, because if you can get to bed at a decent time or things like that, it's helpful. And then usually when you show up and there's a few extra faces there, you're like, all right, we can do this. We can figure it out.
And if you're not there, you're going to hear about it the next day. Like,
That is true.
what happened? It's like, guys, I
Especially
missed
now
one
that you're
day.
somebody who's near the top of the attendance leaderboard. So there's certain levels you have to maintain and
Yeah,
uphold to try
geez.
and maintain a
Yeah.
lead. So one of the things that I think is always interesting to hear from folks is why they like to work out or why they like to focus on fitness and their health. And so for you, what are some of the things that come to mind as to why you really appreciate having movement as part of your day and working even in a job that has a really strong focus on health and wellness?
Yeah, I feel better when I'm more active. Like even the days that I get up and like I could really just lay around all day. It's fine and it works, but I never feel as good as I do if I do get some movement in that day, or it's become like a staple. Like it's really hard to imagine a day without some kind of exercise or movement at this point.
Yeah, I think that's when people tend to notice the best results too, is when it's just becomes part of your lifestyle. It's almost just
Yeah.
like any other habit you have of we like to get some kind of movement in and see how that makes me feel and how that translates. And I know along those lines that you've done some different tough challenges before, things like 75 hard. So tell us a little bit about what that experience was like of taking something you enjoy, movement and working out, and then adding in some of those layers and levels of really the additional pieces outside of the gym.
Yeah, it was just inevitable. Like we had as an office, we had done a 75 medium. So like not 75 soft, but not 75 hard, like kind of in the middle. A couple things like we kind of made priorities of a couple things that when we do them every day, we feel better. Um, and it was fine, but it was almost not enough of a challenge, and we all ended up quitting. So then we decided as an office to do 75 hard. And it didn't work out for everyone, but it was really fun to figure out ways to make the 2 workouts a day happen, to make the water intake happen. I read more than I usually do, which is a win. But it was really funny to look at it, be like, oh, you can fit this stuff into your day, and it doesn't totally wreck your responsibilities. Like it's very doable. Um, so it took a lot of those excuses away. And it felt awesome doing it. Like it was really, it wasn't that bad, which is crazy to think, but it
Yeah, I
wasn't too
imagine the
bad.
initial sort of shock of like, okay, fitting all these things in and figuring out how to
Mm-hmm.
get everything planned is the tough part. And then you settle in, you're like,
Yeah.
becomes your new norm. So what's
Yeah.
life been like after 75 hard?
I said I was going to keep up with a lot of the things, and I totally didn't. Like I was going on walks every day on my lunch break, and I don't think it's happened since. So I do need to do another little reset and try to reincorporate that stuff. But it's really funny to me that I was so gung ho about it. I was like, yeah, I'm going to keep up with all these things. I'm going to keep a lot of it in. Like 80% of the time, I'm going to do all the things, and it totally fell out. So lesson learned. It happens, but hopefully I will get some of those things back into my routine.
Yeah. It's always about taking what works best for you, what fits in your schedule, what you notice the most benefit from, and leaving the things you don't. And I think
Mm-hmm.
that's why even doing something like 75 hard is fun, just to try it out and see like, what does
Yeah.
this happen if I drink more, read more, move more? What do I
Yeah.
like or not like? And then you figure out how the cards fall after that.
Mm-hmm. For
And
sure.
so one of the things that is always interesting to hear as well is when people are part of a gym or part of a community, what are the things that either keep them coming back or get them excited to keep going? So when you think about, being a member of the gym and being part of that community, what are some of the things that get you excited to continue to come back and make it part of your daily routine and lifestyle?
Yeah. I mean, when the greater culture kind of came in, it was immediate, like a huge community shift. A lot more people, and like it just keeps growing. Like the 5:15 a.m. class is insane now, but it's so fun. Like that's a great problem to have. Um, but it's like getting to know everyone, and everyone's kind of at their own place, but you can kind of joke around with each other, and you're going to see people that you see every day. And then the events are always awesome. Like the way we did the open this year was super fun. And then like in-house competitions, that kind of thing that always makes it a little more interesting. um, just the little added pieces outside of the regular classes makes it keep coming back for sure.
Yeah, I think the community aspect is such a cornerstone, and you hear that from a lot of people of that's what maybe brings them in, but also keeps them there, and knowing you've got people
Mhm.
to rely on. And yeah, when you see a class size grow and all of a sudden you're like, oh my gosh, what used to be a nice intimate 6, 7, 8 person class now has 15 to 18 to 20. You're like, what do we do? But it's fun that everybody's been really bought in, helping to get everybody acclimated, and everybody's just there to get a little movement in, enjoy, and get the day off to a good start. So it's fun to have you part of that community and the culture that's been set there. So
Yeah.
a couple sort of quick hitter questions for
Okay.
you. So when you think about all the different movements and all the different types of
Mhm.
equipment you get to use, what would you say is your favorite either movement or piece of equipment that when you see it programmed, you get excited?
Honestly, like dumbbell snatches or kettlebell swings, they feel very productive because it's like a full body movement. Those are probably my favorites. And then like the rower's great. Like I have kind of a love-hate relationship between, but the rowers are awesome.
Yeah, machines are tough because it's like you can get better at them, but it just makes it harder
Mhm.
then because you can just
Yeah.
push harder. So it's never
Yeah.
like you've arrived. But yeah, I like
No.
that. The kettlebell swings and the dumbbell snatches. So we'll
Yeah.
flip it then. What would you say is your least favorite movement or piece of equipment when you see it programmed?
Well, thankfully it's not programmed often because we only have a couple of them, but the skier,
Oh yeah.
primarily because I don't use it. So when I do, it's terrible.
Hmm.
But thankfully we only have a couple of them. So it's usually not like a given, which is
It's usually
nice.
a nice option of like, hey,
Yeah.
you can run or row or ski. Like I'm going running. You
I'll
can
be
have fun with the
outside.
steer. Yeah.
You guys have fun.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. All right. So when it comes to working out, what is your favorite type of music that you'd like to be played when you're working out?
Um, I grew up with 80s rock as my workout music because
Hmm.
of my dad, but like the emo stuff is awesome too. And then like the remixes are always good too. Like the pop remixes are fine too. But
Yeah.
the 80s rock is like where my heart is, but
Mm.
it's all fine.
It's nice to have the playlist that have all those different genres sprinkled in
Yeah.
because all of those have a special place in my heart too. All right, last one for you. So in CrossFit, the workouts are all different lengths. Some are super short, some are sort of medium, some are long. What's your favorite length of a workout? Do you like something super short? Do you like something kind of middle? Or do you like something that's a long workout?
I get too anxious with the short ones that I'm going to time cap. So I like the long chippers, just like I not an AMRAP, but like you're
Yeah.
just chipping away at your little list of to-dos
Hmm.
and then you're done at the like for time, no big deal. Like some egregious time cap of like an hour or 45 minutes. Like that's great.
Yeah.
It's perfect. Don't
Makes sense
rush
being
me.
a runner and having appreciation for some of those longer distance
Yeah.
type of events. Well, Emma, thanks for spending some time and having us get to know you just a little bit better. Love having you at the gym in that morning class and all the energy that you bring and the coffee cups. And, you know, the craziness of it is to have an open coffee cup and mug every day is wild to me. No travel mug, open coffee
Nope.
cup, no spilling,
And
always
I've
dialed
never
in.
spilled it. Not
Yeah,
once.
really impressive. So your
Nope.
balance and coordination out of all the general physical skills is really impressive.
Thank you.
Well, look forward to seeing you again at the gym soon. And thanks for taking some time for
Cool.
today.
Thank you.